I get a funny feeling. Ooh, if you knew, do I really hit the ceiling? Ooh, if you knew, each time we kiss goodnight, you think I don't care. Why can't you understand that I get a kick out of holding your hand? Do you know how much I love you? Ooh, if you knew. Ooh, if you only knew. You've got what it takes to make a fool out of me. But if I ever told you what a fool I would be, do I want to keep you guessing? Maybe I do. Ooh, if you only knew. I want to keep you guessing, maybe I do. Ooh, if you only knew. Ooh, if you only knew.
Hello and welcome once again to the Dr. Zeero Xiron Free Magic Secrets Show. Your number one source for wacky supervillainy. Your number one source, maybe, for magical items and magical diatribes and magical exploration throughout world history. And I know this isn't the biggest channel out there, but it is certainly one of the dopest channels you will run across on YouTube today. And there's reasons why you should give Dr. Zeero more of a listen than perhaps you've been a listening. And I want to plead my case to you why Doc Zeero is the best choice in this extremely crowded field of YouTube content creators. Now, the occult community is full of them. Some people have jumped ship. Some people keep going. Everybody is on their own magical path, and when you are on your own magical path, it's a web, you know. It's a very complex web in which all of the destinies we are spinning and weaving, they all come together. They all hook together in certain ways, and you could say we're all kind of playing a game of poker with each other, and in a big grand game of chess. Right? And even if you want to keep to yourself and not have anything to do with that, it doesn't really matter. You performing magic and being a magical person of this sort of mindset and just acknowledging that and making that such a part of you, just by proxy, you're involved in the big old game that we're all playing. So what is Doc's function? Is Doc the rook? Is he the knight? Is he he's certainly not a pawn. If some of you would like me to be your pawn, I'm sure, but it doesn't happen. So we need to talk about what sets Doc Zeero apart from all the other content creators. Why should you listen to this perspective? And, it's all about worldview. Because there's a lot of people who they have differing ideas of what all this means and what the point is. It's like going to a festival called Pagan Pride, or some kind of fair, as an FAIRE, the old school medieval kind of way of doing it. So worldview. When you go to those sort of places, you quickly see how people are not on the same page at all. But everybody gets along to a certain extent, or they try to be respectful, unless you get in people's stuffs. But when you jump on social media, it sets you up, and you become someone who can be openly attacked or ridiculed or brought into the discussion of other people on different platforms and such. It's just by virtue of just stepping up and going on the podium in a public way, you set yourself up where you can become criticized and you can be an object of attack of people. So it's important people attack Dr. Zeero for the right reasons. And understand that Doc here isn't necessarily at war with people on a personal level, but Doc Zeero is at war with certain ideas. And Doc sticks out like a sore thumb. So we got to talk about how Dr. Zeero versus the Army of Darkness. And that's a big old field to cover. So let's start by stating that Doc here sets apart from all the other content creators and so many magical people because my whole approach, as well as the approach of this show, centers on mind power, right? And I have differing ideas about some things getting in the way of mind power or diluting it. Now, this isn't to say that Doc Zeero is a perfect person. Doc smokes weed. Doc likes to drink a little bit. Doc likes to party a little bit. He's not the ultimate in discipline, right? But I have my shite together, and I'm disciplined mentally in the important ways that I feel should be disciplined. I could be a lot better. You know, if I had it all to start over again, I'd probably commit myself to the martial arts. I know you're going to say commit yourself to the asylum, but that's another story altogether. Now, speaking of mind power and things diluting it, so talk about magic in its classical form. You know, Doc's the kind of person who, if I haven't seen it with my own eyes and experienced it, I'm a little skeptical. You know, it's important to have a healthy dose of skepticism and questioning everything. So let's talk about classical magic stuff. So number one, as far as gods and goddesses go, all this, like the wide the pagan polytheism, what have you, as far as like also people who claim to be able to channel different gods and goddesses, or they talk about working with gods and goddesses and all this stuff. I feel like they're just, cozying up to an imaginary friend. And I don't think any of these gods or goddesses are real in any kind of like legit way. They're not like, I don't believe they're actual like spirits you can communicate with. What I think they are, in my opinion, the way I view it and the way that this channel trying to perceives it, is that, it's like this. Doc is like monotheistic in a sense. Not Abrahamic monotheism. I'm not getting at that. But I'm getting at the view of one architect and one creation, right? The universe is the creation, right? And then some riddle behind existence created everything. And there's the creator, and then there's the creation. But being spit out and being an individual of intelligence, the gift of intelligence, you become creator within the creation. And everything that the creation is serves you and your own ascent. And this idea, like this left-hand path idea of self-godhood. Now, I'm not against that principle because I feel like the very fact that you're given intelligence as a gift, in that sense, you're created in the image of the creator. What I'm trying to say is that the creator created you, or you're part of the creation. So therefore, the thing logically is to connect with your own will, because that's the highest manifestation of you as creation. And what else would that lead to but you basically becoming your own God? But your own your own God in terms of creative aspects. And the entire creation is up for grabs, and it's a free enterprise that you can use in a way that you see fit. You know, there should be no shame in that. So it's like I'm embracing like this left-hand path notion. But to get to the point of what I was saying about the gods and goddesses and all this stuff, I view them as like they're representations of nature, and they're representations of different psychologies within an individual. And they can be used as symbols, and they can be used as points of focus, and they can be used as reflections of yourself in order to deal with your own psychology and learn different parts of yourself. And that's why they're interesting. So, like, for instance, Thoth, the Egyptian god of magic, I don't believe that that's a real thing. I don't believe that that's a real spirit that you can communicate with. But it's interesting because you could, for instance, go through the ritualistic process of trying to summon it before you, and the ritualistic process of trying to like gain some sort of mental gnosis with this representation, this image. And the very fact that you go through all that meditation to make it appear in your mind as something tangible, you can communicate with it, and it will give you answers. It will give you feedback. It's like you're creating a totem in your own mind in order to address and confront different parts of yourself that would otherwise be impossible to connect with in any other normal system. So I'm not against gods and goddesses from this point. But ultimately, this channel is for you if you really just don't believe any of those are real. So, you know, I'm sorry to like bum people out. And I'm not trying to knock people down or whatever, because again, I see people talk all day long about channeling gods and goddesses and the message from Lucifer and like Luciferianism and all this stuff. I just don't think these are real. Like I don't believe in demons and angels and gods and goddesses and all this stuff. Now, are there entities? Are there spirits? Is there an invisible world around us? Maybe, possibly, ghosts and such. I've seen all kinds of wild stuff that can't necessarily be explained. But do I really believe in entities? Maybe, possibly. Maybe, possibly. So this show does give you that question mark. Doesn't completely wipe that all out. But the thing that I'm trying to get at is that you, as the magician, as the operator of your own existence, you're the one who's numero uno. You're the one who's always in control. So really, like all this time that's and energy that's exerted on all these different gods and goddesses and whatnot, I feel like it's just to put it quaintly, I feel like it's a lame fuck around, But also wanted to add to this, so I'm not misunderstood. Doc Zeero is something of a heretic druid, right? And what that means is that I like the druid notion and the what they stand for and what they represent and the function that they represent, both historically and also in the modern era, because Druidry came back in the 1800s as this romantic notion, and it's carried on, and it has its place. And that's when you're something of a jack of all trades at the service of the magical community at large. And some people are monotheistic in a sense of creator and creation, like as I said, as kind of like I am as well. And then there's people who like literally believe in the gods and goddesses and all that shit. And me personally, like I said, like I think it's a big lame fuck around. But at the same time, I am mindful of these people, and I have my own with heretic druidry. Like I will still, if asked, preside over their attempts to commune with these things. Even if I think it's not happening, I'm still going to present that notion. Because heretic druidry is when you absorb the gist of what Druidry is all about, but you don't necessarily commit yourself to any of the historical Druid notions, such as Celtic mythology. Because, I mean, I like the Celtic mythology. It's interesting. But again, it's polytheistic paganism. And I just don't really believe in any of this stuff. Now, it's said that all witches are pagans because witches worship nature. There's the whole Earth Mother, Sky Father motif that goes along with that. But that isn't like totalitarian in witchcraft. Witchcraft is pretty open. It's the main point is that you are fused with nature. And from my standpoint, talking about creator and creation, the creation as a whole is nature. The all is nature. And that includes whatever created the creation. You know, it's all fused. It's one huge thing. That's how I see the all. And I just feel like nature extends to the very boundaries of the universe. It doesn't just have to be focused on, you know, the flora. You know, it doesn't have to be just focused on the world of green surrounding us and the actual elements and matter and all and such, you know. So that's one point right there. So the point that I'm getting at here is that, as I said, I think the gods and goddesses are kind of a lame fuck around, you know. But they have their use as psychological symbols, which you can concentrate on and fuse with and get all kinds of interesting information. But there's all the dark gods and goddesses, the demonic, you could say, or have aspects of what we would call demonic. Or we're talking about demons. And demons are, again, the inhumane aspects, the volatile aspects of the human psyche represented. And then there are those, again, who think that these are real entities. And maybe there's an invisible world where entities exist or whatnot. They have different vibes to them, which make us give them different classifications. But Dr. Zeero's waging war here on the whole of all that. Not necessarily against people, but just the entire concept. It's a big waste of time and a lame fuck around. So there you go. You got Dr. Zeero versus the army of darkness, right? The armies of darkness out there trying to show a better way. Absolutely. So furthermore, wanted to talk about what I wanted to say. Sorry, I had to pause it. But, yeah, talking about, like, okay, as far as freaking out Christians go and fuck with their minds, Satan's pretty goddamn funny. Lucifer is pretty funny, all these things. But, again, the Dr. Zeero show just, it's just not real. And some of them are really detrimental to one's own health. Because the thing is, when you start wheeling and dealing in all these demons, right? And they're all representations of different states of the psyche and different states of inhumanity and such. Everybody, it's like there's this allure to working with them, but you're just going to drive yourself insane. And I don't understand why you got to make such a focus about it. So Doc warns against these things and doesn't pursue them and doesn't promote them. It's the same thing with the clip-off, right? So I completely push the Tree of Life on this show in a lot of lessons of Kabbalah and such. But, you know, so you talk about the clip-off. So the clip-off is kind of a lame fuck around, too, because, you know, the powers that it describes are real, but there's really been no map or framework. So let's be honest here. There's no definitive document. There was nothing that came from the Jewish people that really explored it because it was a banned practice. It was just acknowledged that these husks existed, that there was a shadow tree, but it isn't really explained much. And there's a couple documents like later in time from Jewish sources that kind of touch it just a little. And the thing is, like, the roadmap or the map schematic of the clip-off that we get modern days with the different demonic rulers over the different spheres, the Sephiroth. I guess they're not Sephiroth, they're husks. So the archdemons of the husks, that whole roadmap is actually coming from Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. Even though there isn't like a section on the clip-off, there's a section on the Sephiroth, and it just lists what the archdemon of each one is. And the list that Agrippa gives has been continually pushed over and over and over and over, and has become like the bedrock. But nobody knows where Agrippa got his source from. It's just a big question mark, because I can find no information further. There's no one alive that you could even ask. Agrippa never stated it or left any notes behind of where he was getting it. So the demonic rulers that are all attributed to the different spheres, this is probably just like Christianized stuff. And this is also the beginning of Lucifuge, because Lucifuge doesn't exist in anywhere else in any like religious document. He pops up in the Grand Grimoire, or is it the Red Dragon? I always get these two confused. Isn't that the same book? I read them all. It's all drivel. That's another thing the Dr. Zeero showed. Like all these like infamous dark black magic grimoires, like they're all a fucking joke. They're really a joke. And this whole like this medieval Dark Ages, and into the Renaissance, whatever. Like this whole area of spirit conjuring, demonic, where like you like cast the circle, and you have a little triangle in front of the circle, and then you put all the protective names of the god around everything to try to like protect you from the demon that you're summoning in front of you. You're trying to materialize and control, and it's like being like a lion tamer. It's like supposedly where you summon these things in person, and then you command them to do your will because you're such a pure, holy, noble person through these different iterations of God and whatnot. So that's a bunch of hocus pocus too. And magic spells, they're all just all the spells in the world, all these things, they're just little novelty items to hone the focus of one's mind, to try to make psychic phenomena occur, or telepathy, or to send your energy out into the world. They're just props. So the message of the Dr. Zeero Show, if you're down with this, is the whole point is where you don't need the props anymore. You're able to just flip on the psychic state, the magical state, with just like the flicking a light. Like you don't need an Ouija board. You don't need a 3-legged table with a skull on it. You don't need an altar space. You don't need the candles and the incense and the burning sticks of Palo Santo. You don't need all these little props. The whole point of this show and the whole message is that, it should completely you should be able to just flip it on. That is to try to like push people to get to the point of self-mastery where all those things just kind of fall to the wayside. So, that much stated, that's the gist of the Dr. Zeero Show. So basically, those are the things that I find detrimental in what I'm warning against and what I'm not promoting. But the entirety of magical techniques are there for the taking and there for you to use. And you have to approach them with respect, with restraint, with caution, because the forces of magic are very real forces, because they're forces of mind power. So, again, this is all about Doc versus the army of darkness. And one other thing that I want to talk about before we close is just the obsession with sex magic. Now, there's power in sex magic, and sexuality isn't something that Doc chastises. Doc here is a sex-positive person ethically that just doesn't participate. I did once upon a time, but I've become kind of this asexual celibate person. And it has made my own mind power so much stronger than ever before. I was such a unfocused mess, and I had been sunk into the animalistic lust aspects of being a human through most of my 20s and early 30s and whatnot. And I was there, and there was a merging of sex and magic, and that was going on before. Because see, like with me, the great magical awakening, basically, I started out, I was heavily into like witchcraft and like learning all this stuff in my younger days. Then I drifted away from it, and it stayed with me, and the lessons were there, but I quit seeking out more information. I quit learning more. I thought I had kind of learned all the basics of all the witchy stuff. And then when I hit about 35, that's when I just woke up one day and it all returned to me. And then my obsessive need to like learn everything that was connected to the entire history of magic and all the different techniques and whatnot, it all just came back to me. And it put me on a whole nother level and a whole nother state of being. So I'm just, warning against the obsession with sex magic and, becoming totally fused with, I think like Lilith is a really bad idea. Not that it isn't about self-empowerment or revolting, all this and shit. It's just this single-minded, narrow obsession with sexual energy and sexual prowess and sexuality and all this shit. So Doc is kind of like warning against all that. So anyway, these are all just things that set Doc apart from the crowd. I'm never going to tell you that I'm channeling messages from aliens. I'm never going to tell you that I'm opening up Stargate portals somewhere. I'm never going to tell you any kind of hokey, ridiculous stuff that really can't be verified in one way or another. I mean, there's some stuff we can theorize on that might be crankery on some levels. But this channel tries to be as non-cranky as possible. Breaking news. Not really breaking news. Just more like I already had this thing wrapped up and uploaded, but I wanted to like clarify some things on listening back. To say that the gods and goddesses are just a straight up lame fuck around, that's a little harsh on my point. I know that's a bit of a heartbreaker for some. But I mean, in terms of like this is something. These are some points that I missed in my earlier dialogue that I just want to correct or touch on. So my point is that uno momento, per favor. My point is that the gods and goddesses is real entities. Now, there's some ways to think about that. Okay. And this is a discussion about collective unconsciousness or the collective subconscious, I guess. The collective consciousness, however you want to put it, merged with, however you want to describe the astral realm or the dream state in which maybe we're all connected in a hive mind, in that sub level. You know what I mean? So, okay, that's part one. And part two that I wanted to get to here. Now, the reason that I was kind of warning against this stuff is because, say, entities or ghosts or spirits, whatever you want to say those things are actually real. Now, just because you make a seance to a very specific demon or god or goddess or angel or whatever, or you have some kind of mediumship scenario, or, you try to gain gnosis or evoking, however you want to say, just because something fucking shows up and then tells you it's Lilith doesn't make it Lilith. Just because something says it's Azazel doesn't make it so. If something shows up and says it's Belial, doesn't make it Belial. Just, I mean, if there were entities and spirits and shit and they could use humans in ways, they're going to tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear. And you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, enter at your own risk, big time. So that's the number one point I wanted to make there. Now, you talk about how could gods or goddesses be real entities? Where's another way to think about that? Now, it's basically like this. You got the collective unconsciousness, where we're basically like all hooked into each other on an instinctual way to varying degrees. And when people talk about visiting the astral plane or having visions of being wed to the collective unconsciousness or whatever, and, there's archetypes, and this is why tarot was so powerful, and all Carl Jung's research and such. But is it possible that people's own emotions and feelings and impressions in the collective united subconscious or collective unconscious, however you want to put it, can they create egregores? Can they create fully solidified egregores? And like egregore of thought, of like everybody's perception of a god or goddess. It's all just like fused together, in like this weird way. Is that where they're crawling from? Is that their function? Is that a legitimate way to perceive it? I think you guys understand what I'm saying when I talk about all that. Now, I'm going to pause it right here because I might actually have something else to add. I'm just really thinking about it. Maybe not. Hold your horses. I also wanted to add that I am steadfastly against making pacts with gods or goddesses or demons and stuff. I mean, like I explained before, just because something shows up and tells you that it's this god or that god or whatever, doesn't make it fucking so. And all you're doing is allowing who knows what into your fucking energetic space. Because, anything that would be an entity or is alive out there in an invisible way, if such a thing is possible, they're fucking like vampire leeches. That's it. They're just leeching you and living off you and using you and drawing all your psychic juju out of you to like sustain themselves or however it works. But again, this is all like occult talk that can't really be verified. It's just kind of throwing these ideas out there because, hey, ghosts and entities and spirits are a really hot topic on all these sorts of shows. And how can you ignore it? You can beat around the bush forever, but you got to confront it directly. So that's what I'm getting at. It's a big old army of darkness, and none of which you can trust. And Doc must warn ye against any such procedures. Now, I've done episodes talking about spirit evocation and spirit invocation, with I think a warning on the subject matter a little bit. Because it's important that people should understand how it's done and what it is. It isn't necessarily say, go out and do it yourself, but tells you how if you basically really want to make it happen, theoretically, if such a thing were possible. So, that much stated, I think that's pretty much everything I had to say today, because I've had you probably now for almost a half hour, if you're still listening to this rant and whatnot. Anyway, big drum roll. As always, hit the subscribe button. Let people know I exist. Post these videos anywhere that, you think people will find them or will care. I'm going to keep knocking them out of the ballpark as long as you guys keep showing up. So, that much said, as always, hail Arkham. And here's your hot rockin' outro. See you guys.
Different energy. The place where you go when you fall asleep. When you have your dreams or your nightmares. Welcome to the astral dimension of your brain. Astral plane. dreams and your nightmares play.